This is the Insta360 X4, and I'm going to be comparing it to the X3 to help you decide if it's worth the upgrade. And if you're new to 360 cameras, I'm going to give an overview of the features available in both these cameras so you can decide if it's actually something you'd be interested in. So let's get into it. So if you're new to 360 cameras or you're just a bit unfamiliar, essentially you get to film everything around you in 360 degrees, and then in post-production, using either a phone app or an app on your computer, you can reframe a standard image like you would see on YouTube or something like that on a normal TV screen from the 360 degree footage. So it takes the guesswork out of filming. So the main standout feature of the X4 is now it's an 8K 360 capture, whereas the old camera, the X3, is only 5.7K. This makes this the first consumer 8K 360 camera. And that means that when you've reframed your image afterwards, it's still going to be a really high quality image, much higher than the previous generation. The X4 can also shoot 5.7K at 60 frames per second, whereas the X3 is locked out at 30 frames per second. If you want 60 frames per second from the X3, you're going to have to shoot at 4K, which gives you less resolution in your final crop. Also, for the people that want to get that awesome slow-mo, the X4 can do 4K at 100 frames per second, whereas if you want 100 frames per second from the X3, you're going to have to drop down to 3K. So with these cameras, you also get the me mode, where the camera actually targets one direction either towards where the selfie stick is or away from the selfie stick, and you just press a button to switch between those two, and then it automatically gets you a reframed image ready to go. With the upgraded resolution of the X4, you can do this in 4K now on this camera, and if you want 120 frames per second in this mode, then you can do that in 2.7K on this, and that's your final output. The X3 in me mode actually maxes out at 1080p 60, so it's quite a big upgrade there with the X4. Also, clearly we can see the form factor has changed. The X4 having this nice rugged, grippy surface now, which will probably stand up to fingerprints and a bit of abuse a lot better than the previous generation. Also, it does have a new, bigger battery. We'll get onto that later. And the screen is bigger. It's now a 2.5-inch screen rather than a 2.29-inch screen on the X3. But also the X4 has another little trick up its sleeve. You can actually screw on these special lens protectors. On the X3, the only available option was some sticky guards, and once you've sort of stuck and unstuck them, they're kind of useless at that point. You can't really reuse them for too long. All the ports and things are in the exact same place, so you're just switching to open up the USB port there, and the buttons are the same. And it's got this really nice feature where if something isn't quite closed up properly, it's slightly orange until you push it in. So we now have the AI gesture control. So with a peace sign, you can get the camera to automatically take a photo of you from any angle. So you can be anywhere in the vicinity of the 360 image, throw up the peace sign and it will take a photo of you. If you hold up your palm, it will start recording. Hold up your palm again, it will stop recording. If you're concerned at all that you're accidentally going to enact, like throw up the peace sign or do the palm, then you can actually turn these features off so you can avoid that issue. So of course we've got the Flowstate Stabilisation available in both cameras. You know, it's super good stabilisation, and you can see from this footage what it's like when it's on and what it's like when it's off. It's night and day. It's fantastic stabilisation. It's really, really impressive. All of the action cameras of the current generation have really, really good stabilisation. So for people that are kind of deciding between one of these cameras and a standard action camera, like the Ace Pro or a GoPro 12 or a DJI Action 4, this might be a deciding factor for you. The X4 now, in single lens mode, can shoot 4K 60, which basically means it's like a standard action camera as well as a 360 camera. And of course, it's got another trick up its sleeve. You can press a button on the screen to swap between each lens when you're in single lens mode. So the X3 can also do 4K, but it's limited to 30 frames per second in the single lens mode. But if you want 60, you're gonna have to drop to 3K. So Insta360 are known for their really fun modes that sort of inspire creativity. And the app is really, really strong. We'll come to that later again. Also, built into the camera, there's something called bullet time. Now, if you're familiar with the Matrix films, they kind of started this whole process of bullet time where the character Neo is flying back and the bullets are flying around him, and they had a rig of hundreds of cameras, I believe it was, in a circle around him, and they all took a picture one at a time, and then they turned that, every frame of those photos, into a video, and then they were able to make a really, really super slow-mo of him flailing his arms about. Now, because the 360 camera is essentially taking pictures all the way around itself, Insta360 have come up with another method to achieve this same result. And you get an accessory that allows you to attach the stick on here, and you spin it in a circle, and then you can do these really cool little slow-mo shots where you're in the center of the frame, you spin it around you and your friends or whatever, and you could try some really cool things out with it. With the X4, you can do 5.7K 120 frames per second. And if you bump it down to 3K, you can do 240 frames per second. With the X3, it was limited to 4K 120. Now, another really cool thing about these cameras is when you use them for a time lapse, because these cameras are shooting 360 already, you can actually just reframe from one point of a time lapse and then end it at another point of the time lapse and come up with some really fun time lapses. And again, you benefit from that shoot first, frame later. The X4 can actually capture 11K in its time-lapse mode. The X3 still does quite well there. It does 8K, which is still quite impressive. But again, obviously the X4 it's a pretty major upgrade from the X3. Timeshift is a really good beginner mode. So if you aren't sure what you want to do and you just want to wander around the city you live in or just any space, you can chuck it in Timeshift mode. And it's like a time lapse where you're moving, so it aligns each frame so that it becomes smoother. And on the X4, you can do 8K in this mode, whereas the X3 is only 5.7K. So the X4 battery is actually 2,290 milliamp hours. That gives you something like 67% longer runtime than the previous generation. They claim a longer runtime of 135 minutes in 5.7K 60. So, this is another big upgrade. The X4 can actually do H.265 now, but the X3 actually can only do H.264. And what is the difference? Well, H.265, you get higher quality for the same data size. It's just a better compression. So the X4 can also record up to 200 megabits per second now, which is a major upgrade over the X3. Both these cameras can produce a 72 megapixel pure shot. It makes it a really nice clean image. The X4 has mastered this process, so you can actually preview files on your X4 because it's powerful enough now to do that, whereas the X3, you have to do it in post-production if you want to do those sort of pure shot things. So it's actually really simple to edit these on your phone. There's a few options that you can take advantage of, like you can set keyframes where you set a start position and an end position near the end of the video file, and the move will automatically apply in that space. Or you can use this mode where you use the gyroscopes in your phone to look around the 360 image, and you can burn that into the file. And then you can output the final video, which contains the movements you've added to it. But of course, you've still got the original video. If you mess up and you want to do it again, you can just go back in the editor and make any changes you want. It's really intuitive, it's really simple to use. Also, something really cool about the Insta360 app, but it's got all these shot lab effects, so you can film stuff, it'll show you how to film it to get best results, and then you can put it through the shot lab process to turn it into these really cool different videos based on all the stuff you find in the app. So if you're stuck for ideas and you want inspiration, just check them out, see what's in there, give it a go. So on the side here, we also have an upgraded USB-C port. So this is now a USB-C 3, whereas on the X3 it's a USB-C 2. So that actually essentially doubles the transfer speed. So I would like to know your thoughts. Do you think that the X4 is worth the upgrade over the X3? Are there any features that aren't in the X4 that you think should be there? So definitely comment below and let them know what they should be doing next. So for those wanting all the latest and greatest features, the X4 is the one for you. But if you want to save some money, you want a really good value discounted camera, the X3 is an absolute bargain price right now. There'll also be a special link below which will give you a free accessory when you order one of these cameras. So check that out. So I'll be putting this camera through its paces, through more extreme tests, amongst other things. So I do deal with a lot of action cameras and stuff as well on my channel. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to be informed of any future uploads. Also, if you want to know which is the best action camera, non-360, then check out this video next. And as ever, I'll see you on the next one.